the 5 biggest physical mistakes men make that turn women off. You walk across the room, she looks away. You haven't said a word, yet you have already been rejected. The truth is brutal. She already knows. Before you open your mouth, your body spoke first, and it screamed insecurity. We live in an era where men obsess over the right words. They memorize tactics and build heavy masks of artificial confidence. But they completely ignore the physical vessel. While you overthink exactly what to say, her nervous system quietly scans your physical presence. You broadcast, she receives, your body does not lie. When your mind is a chaotic storm of self-doubt, your physical form automatically manifests that exact same storm. It shrinks, it twitches, it repels. Attraction is a deeply primitive biological response triggered by the silent language of the flesh. If your presence signals weakness, no smooth talking will save you. She feels it in her gut. She pulls away. Today we expose the 5 biggest physical mistakes that instantly turn women off. These ingrained habits silently tell a woman you are not a safe harbor, but a sinking ship. They expose a fragile ego. You will not fix this by faking it. You will fix this by aligning your physical form with deeply rooted, unshakable Stoic stillness. You become the mountain. You become the anchor. Let us begin. Mistake 1. The apologetic posture. Look around any crowded room. Observe the men. Notice the subtle geometry of defeat. Shoulders rolled forward, necks jutting out, chests collapsed inward. They look like they are apologizing for existing, apologizing for taking up space. This is the apologetic posture. It is a physical surrender, and it is the first invisible repellent that destroys attraction before a single word is spoken. Women see this instantly. It registers deep within their evolutionary hardware. When your posture folds inward, it broadcasts a terrifying message you are afraid of the world around you. You're bracing for an impact. You're physically shielding your vital organs from a perceived threat that exists entirely in your own mind. A man who collapses his own frame signals that he cannot protect himself, let alone provide a shield for a partner. He has already been defeated by the mere anticipation of life's challenges. Instead of standing as an immovable pillar of strength within his environment, the insecure man tries to shrink himself down. He is terrified of the harsh gaze of judgment. He wants to be invisible. He plays small in a world that fundamentally demands presence. Posture is not a mechanical issue of the spine. It is a philosophical issue of the soul. It is the purest reflection of your internal self-worth. When you subconsciously doubt your fundamental right to be in a room, your body literally attempts to erase itself from that room. You fold your arms, you cross your legs tightly, you bow your head slightly downwards, you become a frightened animal retreating into a fragile shell of social anxiety. This physical contraction is a trap. It suffocates your breathing, it spikes your cortisol, it locks you into a devastating feedback loop of weakness. You feel anxious, you shrink physically. That physical shrinking tells your brain you are in danger. You feel more anxious. She feels this trapped energy. It makes her profoundly uncomfortable. She pulls away. She does not pull away because she is cruel. She pulls away because nature demands a partner who can stand firm against the relentless chaos of existence. If the mild breeze of ordinary social pressure causes your physical structure to crumble, what will happen when a real storm hits? How can she possibly trust a man who cannot even carry the weight of his own ribcage? She cannot. The solution is not what you think. Do not puff out your chest like a cartoon character. Do not force your shoulders back with rigid, painful tension. That is fake alpha behavior. It is just another louder form of insecurity. True masculine posture comes from relaxation, not tension. It comes from radical acceptance. It comes from a deep internal permission to exist exactly where you are. You drop your shoulders. You align your neck. You breathe deeply into your stomach. You claim the physical space you occupy without a single drop of apology, yet without a trace of arrogance. When you walk into a room, you do not need to dominate it. You only need to govern yourself. The Stoic man understands that his physical territory is his sovereign kingdom. By standing tall, relaxed, and open, you signal to the world that you are at peace with whatever happens next. You are not bracing for an attack because you know you can handle the attack. Instead of being a fragile leaf blown around by the wind of external validation, you must become the deeply rooted tree that remains unshaken. An ancient oak does not strain to stand tall. It does not force its branches outward to impress the surrounding forest. It simply exists, perfectly anchored in the earth, effortlessly extending into the sky. It is completely indifferent to the weather. When you adopt this stoic stillness, your posture corrects itself naturally. The chest opens because the heart inside it is no longer afraid. This quiet, relaxed expansion is magnetically attractive. It whispers of competence, it screams of safety. You stop hiding, you start standing, own your space, claim your ground, breathe. Mistake 2. The extremes of eye contact. The eyes reveal everything. They are the untamed frontier of the human soul. You cannot lie with them, you cannot hide behind them. They expose the exact depth of your internal reality. When it comes to eye contact, insecure men swing violently between two extremes. Both are fatal to attraction. Both are manifestations of deep-seated fear. The first extreme is the evasion, the darting gaze, the downward look. You look at her, she looks back, you panic, you immediately break contact. Your eyes snap to the floor, to your phone, to the nearest exit. You are terrified of the connection. You are terrified of being truly seen. This rapid breaking of eye contact signals submission. It broadcasts a profound lack of self-belief. It tells her on a primal level that you do not consider yourself worthy of holding her attention. You're yielding the social power immediately. You retreat into the safety of isolation because the intensity of another human being feels like a physical threat. When your eyes constantly scan the room, never resting, never connecting, you project a frantic, untethered energy. It is the visual equivalent of a nervous squirrel. You are not present. You are caught in the chaotic machinery of your own anxious thoughts. A woman cannot trust a man who cannot even look her in the eye. If you cannot face her gaze, how will you face the unpredictable challenges of the real world? The second extreme is equally repulsive, yet born from the exact same insecurity. It is the forced stare, the unnatural, unbroken, predatory glare. Some men read terrible advice on the internet. They are told to never look away first. They are told that breaking eye contact is weakness, so they compensate. They lock eyes with a rigid, aggressive intensity. They do not blink. They stare with the cold, dead eyes of a shark. This is performative dominance. It is entirely artificial, and women detect it instantly. It does not feel confident. It feels creepy. It feels coercive. It feels like you're trying to extract something from her, rather than share a moment with her. This forced stare is just a mask for the frightened boy underneath. It is an overcompensation for the fear of being perceived as weak. You are trying to intimidate your way into attraction. It never works. It only creates a suffocating pressure that forces her to pull away to protect her own boundaries. The Stoic ideal lies in the profound stillness between these two frantic extremes. It is the grounded, unwavering gaze of a man who is entirely comfortable in his own skin. It is a gaze that is neither aggressive nor submissive. It simply is. When you look at her, you do not stare to dominate. You do not look away to submit. You observe, you connect. You remain completely unbothered by the fact that she is looking back. Your eye contact is warm, relaxed, and deeply present. It is the gaze of a man who has nothing to prove and nothing to hide. Imagine looking at a beautiful landscape. You do not stare at a mountain to conquer it. You do not look away from an ocean because it intimidates you. You simply take it in. You appreciate it. You let it exist and you exist alongside it. Apply this to your interactions. Hold her gaze with soft focus. If you need to look away, do so slowly, purposefully, to ponder a thought or observe your surroundings, not as a panicked reaction to her eyes. Return your gaze with the same calm deliberation. This is the power of stoic presence. Your eyes become anchors of calm in a chaotic world. When a woman looks into them, she does not see a nervous boy trying to escape nor a desperate man trying to control. She sees a deeply rooted pillar of stability. She sees a man who is not easily shaken by the external world because his internal world is ordered quiet and secure. She sees a safe place to land. Mistake 3. Frantic micro-movements. Look at his hands, watch his feet, notice the endless twitching, the bouncing knee, the tapping fingers, the constant restless shifting of weight from one leg to the other. These are frantic micro-movements. They are exhausting to watch. Women pick up on this instantly. It is a biological red flag. Your body is leaking energy. It is spilling out uncontrollably because your conscious mind cannot contain the sheer volume of its own anxiety. You're completely detached from the present moment, lost in a maze of overthinking, while your nervous system treats a simple conversation like an impending predator attack. You touch your face, you adjust your collar, you scratch your neck, you check your blank phone screen for the 20th time. You cannot sit still. You cannot stand still. This physical chaos is a direct transmission of internal instability. It tells a woman that you are profoundly uncomfortable in your own skin, desperately vibrating with a nervous frequency that disrupts the peace of anyone who steps into your orbit. Attraction requires a foundation of safety. It requires a feeling of solid ground. When you fidget endlessly, you are an emotional earthquake. You are unpredictable, emotionally dysregulated, and entirely consumed by the turbulent weather of your own unacknowledged insecurities. If a man cannot govern the subtle movements of his own fingers, how can he govern the trajectory of his life? How can he possibly provide a calm, unshakable harbour for a woman when the real storms of life inevitably hit? He cannot. He's already drowning in a glass of water. The Stoic philosophy teaches us the supreme power of physical economy, the absolute mastery of stillness. You stop the twitching, you plant your feet, you breathe. Instead of allowing your anxiety to dictate 1,000 useless physical adjustments, you must consciously channel that erratic energy into a profound, immovable presence. You become the heavy ancient stone resting peacefully at the bottom of a rushing river, entirely undisturbed by the frantic shallow currents swirling endlessly above you. Stillness is not stiffness. It is not freezing like a terrified prey animal caught in the headlights. It is relaxed, deliberate control. It is the physical manifestation of a mind that has completely accepted the present reality, stripping away the desperate, exhausting need to constantly change it, escape it, or manipulate it. When you learn to occupy a physical space without vibrating, you project an aura of massive, undeniable power. You become magnetic. Women are deeply drawn to this profound stillness because it is incredibly rare in modern society. In a world saturated with frantic, anxious men who are constantly trying to prove their worth through erratic motion and loud gestures, the man who can simply exist in total silence becomes an instant captivating anomaly. He is a mystery. He is a rock. Slow your movements down. When you reach for a glass of water, do it with calm, deliberate intention rather than a jerky, rushed reflex born of nervous tension. When you stand, let your skeletal structure carry your weight naturally, feeling gravity pulling you down, distributing your formidable presence deep into the earth beneath your shoes. Let the silence settle in your bones. Stop leaking your power. Master your micro-movements. Govern your vessel. Be still. Mistake 4, performative dominance. Look at the modern alpha male. Watch him perform. See the fragile ego. It is a desperately sad show. Modern culture has infected the minds of men with a cartoonish, exaggerated blueprint of masculinity, convincing them that true power is measured by the sheer volume of physical space they can aggressively consume and the jarring loudness of their unprovoked opinions. They believe attraction is a battlefield of dominance. They puff their chests. They spread their legs absurdly wide. They speak over everyone else. They move with a rigid, jerky aggression. They slap tables. They grip handshakes a little too hard. They are constantly scanning the room, trying to establish an imaginary hierarchy where they sit comfortably at the very top. This is performative dominance. It is an illusion, and it is completely repulsive. Women possess an ancient, highly calibrated biological intuition designed to detect exactly this kind of evolutionary fraud, immediately recognizing that a man who constantly feels the desperate need to prove his dominance is actually terrified of being exposed as incredibly weak. This behavior is not strength. It is a panic attack disguised as confidence. It is the physical manifestation of profound imposter syndrome. The man who acts the toughest on the outside is always the one who feels the smallest on the inside. He lacks internal substance, so he attempts to manufacture a heavily armoured, impenetrable exterior to keep the terrifying judgment of the world at bay. She feels this underlying volatility. It does not make her feel safe. It puts her nervous system on high alert. A man who relies on aggressive posturing is a dangerous emotional liability. His self-worth is a house of cards heavily dependent on external submission to remain standing. If a stranger bumps into him at a bar, his fragile ego shatters and he reacts with unhinged rage. If a woman disagrees with his opinion, he raises his voice to forcefully crush the perceived disrespect. He is completely enslaved by his own insecurities. He is a prisoner. The Stoic philosophy completely destroys this toxic paradigm, teaching us that the most formidable power a man can possess is the absolute quiet mastery of his own internal reactions. True power does not shout. True power whispers. It does not need to aggressively announce itself to the room because its heavy grounded presence is simply undeniable. The Stoic man is a quiet king. He does not need to physically dominate his environment because he has already successfully conquered the chaotic landscape of his own mind. He sits normally, he speaks softly, he is utterly relaxed. Instead of puffing out his chest to intimidate the world, he lets his shoulders drop and his breath deepen, resting securely in the unshakable knowledge of his own quiet competence. He is a sleeping lion entirely unbothered by the anxious, barking dogs running in circles around him, knowing with absolute certainty that his true strength is always there if the situation genuinely demands it. You do not need to perform. You do not need to act like a predator. Drop the heavy, exhausting armor of fake masculinity, is physically crushing you, is driving women away. Replace the loud performance with a silent, disciplined presence. Speak less. Move slower. Breathe deeper. Let go of the desperate need to conquer the room and simply observe it with the calm, detached amusement of a man who is deeply at peace with himself. True authority is silent. Let them wonder. Be the quiet king. Mistake 5, neglecting the biological baseline. Look at the details, smell the reality, observe the baseline. This is not vanity, this is fundamental survival. Modern men often completely misunderstand the primitive biological mechanics of human attraction, falsely believing that an expensive watch or a heavily muscled physique will somehow magically compensate for a profound lack of basic, everyday personal care. They ignore their breath, they neglect their nails, they overlook the stale scent of their own apathy. They think it does not matter. They think she will not notice. They are fatally wrong. A woman's olfactory and visual perception is an incredibly fine-tuned evolutionary survival mechanism brutally designed over millions of years to subconsciously evaluate the health, vitality, and underlying psychological stability of a potential mate. When you approach her with unkempt hygiene, you fail the most ancient test. You trigger visceral disgust. Disgust is the ultimate biological veto. It overrides everything. But the psychology behind this physical mistake runs much deeper than a forgotten shower or an unwashed shirt. It is a direct, undeniable metric of your foundational self-respect. It is the visible, tangible evidence of your internal standards being projected out into the physical world. If a man cannot summon the basic daily discipline to properly maintain the singular physical temple that houses his consciousness, how can he possibly be trusted to fiercely protect and maintain a relationship, a family, or a shared future he cannot? He is disorganized. He is entirely collapsing at the baseline. When you allow your physical vessel to fall into a state of careless disrepair, you are loudly broadcasting a terrifying lack of reverence for your own existence. You are signaling a depressive surrender to the friction of daily life. You do not care about yourself. Why should she invest her energy in caring about you? The philosophy of Stoicism teaches us that while we absolutely cannot control the genetic cards we are dealt at birth, we possess total uncompromising authority over how we diligently maintain and present the biological equipment we have been given. Basic hygiene is not a chore. It is an act of profound self-love. It is a quiet daily ritual of unyielding discipline. It is the Stoic practice of taking extreme ownership of your physical reality, ensuring that the primary interface through which you interact with the world is clean, sharp, and intentionally cultivated with a deep sense of pride. You scrub the dirt, you trim the nails, you neutralize the decay. You do not do this to desperately impress a woman or to artificially conform to the exhausting, shifting standards of modern consumer beauty. You do this for yourself. You do this because you demand foundational excellence from your own habits. Instead of carrying the heavy, repulsive aura of a man who has slowly given up on his own standards, you project the crisp, undeniable freshness of a man who completely respects his own presence in the universe. She intimately notices the clean edge of your collar. She subconsciously registers the neutral, healthy scent of your skin. She observes the meticulously maintained hands that clearly demonstrate a quiet capacity for both building an empire and offering a secure, gentle touch. This baseline of biological care whispers a powerfully reassuring message of competence directly to her nervous system. It proves you are organized. It proves you are highly capable. It proves you are a man who has successfully conquered the mundane chaos of his own daily routines, establishing the absolute certainty that you possess the necessary bandwidth to navigate the beautiful complexities of a shared life. Respect your vessel. Honor your biology. Wash away the apathy. Own your temple. We have reached the end. Look at the mirror. Look past the flesh. The physical mistakes we discussed are not merely bad habits. They are loud echoes of a restless mind. They are the visible fractures of an unanchored soul. When you fix your posture, control your eyes, and master your chaotic movements, you're not learning a new acting technique to manipulate women into desiring you. You're doing something much more profound. You're physically demanding that your nervous system finally surrender to the deep, unshakable peace of the present moment. Attraction is merely a byproduct of this internal alignment. The ultimate goal is your own sovereignty. You stop performing, you start existing, you become the quiet storm of stillness. When a man is truly at peace with the unpredictable chaos of the universe, his body becomes a magnificent, relaxing sanctuary for anyone lucky enough to enter his orbit. She feels this sanctuary. She gravitates toward it. She stays. Now I have a question for you. Which of these invisible mistakes has been silently draining your power, and what is the first small step you will take today to reclaim your physical sovereignty? Leave your thoughts below. Let us build a quiet empire together. Until next time, stay grounded.